when you do that, those are the deals that work out good.
So the big question is, what are the top agents doing to absolutely crush it in real estate, grow their teams, and add more transactions year over year while so many struggle? If you ever thought about this, you're not alone. No one has been able to get the answers until now.
We spent the last few years helping agents sell billions in real estate, rubbing shoulders with top producers, which got us thinking, how can we expose more people to these insights to help raise the standard in the whole real estate industry? We then realized that we could help bridge the gap by getting the secrets from the best of the best so that you can succeed. My name is Andrew Dunn.
And my name is Peter Michael. Welcome to Elite Agent Secrets.
At what point did you guys know to expand from being so narrow and just building a little bit wider? What did that look like? What, like the phases? Because I'm assuming you weren't just like, oh, acquisition, boom, we're developing now. There had to be some kind of progression.
Well, even starting out, like before we even started the wholesale stuff, we wanted to buy and build. I mean, honestly, we want to buy and build luxury apartment complexes. Like that's
so you started with that goal in mind.
Yeah, right. So that's like, and like we're still not there yet. You know, this is all a process. So we started narrow with just the acquisitions, and then once we got a little bit more money in the bank, and we were somewhat comfortable with our knowledge ourselves on kind of a bird's eye view of how a deal goes from A to Z, from purchase, rehab to close, and we had a pretty solid group of networkers. Or I'm sorry, a solid group of mentors in our network, which allowed us to, basically feel comfortable with the amount of people and the skill set of those people that we had in our network to be able to lean on when we ran into any issues during that first rehab. So once we just felt comfortable at that point, then we raised a little bit of money, started out with just like family and friends, and leveraged it with hard money. And we did our first fix and flip. So we did the acquisition, purchased off market. I think we bought it for $120. We put in about $130, and we sold it for $340. So after closing costs and all investors were paid and everything, we were able to walk away from that deal with $50,000. It was like $55,000 or something. And then we had a little bit more money in our pocket, and we had a little bit more know-how. We had a little better network, and we just looked to do it again.
One of the things I want to touch on, because this isn't, it would impact you in people in your area, but for everyone else in the world, one of the things is right now, obviously fix and flips, like you're trying to get listings. You mentioned that off market. I just want to unpack a little bit, like how you're finding them. Like how are you finding deals? Like how are you finding the homes to buy, getting them off market? Because I think that's something that there's multiple levels, whether you're an investor or buying and flipping and stuff, that someone could use potentially one of your strategies to try and get, even if it's a couple more listings a year, right? We've spoken about some amazing strategies before, but I imagine you've got a completely different take on some of the other people we've spoken with. So I'd be interested to hear about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, agents should use every strategy that I'm using. But this also comes back to the first point of realizing that you're a business owner and treating it as a business, and realizing that that's going to take some investment, not only of your time and energy, but it's going to take an investment of some capital. So with us, we spend a lot of time crafting different marketing campaigns to be able to reach people through the mail, cold call. And when we started, we spent, like I said, we were in debt. So we had a credit card, and we literally spent like $1,000. I think we sent out maybe 2,000 mailers directly to sellers. So I actually went to different public record websites, and I built lists of people who I thought would potentially be interested in selling houses. I made sure that there was a positive and a negative with each lead. The positive meaning they have a lot of equity, for instance, is the most common positive. So the reason why I say it's a positive is because if a house is worth $100,000 and they have 90% equity, then when I offer them $100,000, they're going to walk away with $90,000. So it's a very positive emotion versus if they only have 10% equity, I offer them 100, great, but they're only walking away with 10 grand. So it's not like you don't get as much of that positive energy power. And then the negative would be something like, they're on the L&I unsafe list, right? So there's something wrong with the property, like structurally, that is hurting the integrity of the actual house, and the city has deemed it somewhat unsafe, or they haven't paid their taxes in 2+ years, So now this is the second year in a row, third, fourth, fifth year in a row that they haven't paid their taxes, meaning something is probably wrong. So those are just a couple of examples there. But once we had the list, we then went to White Pages, and it was the cheapest one that we could find at the time, where we got an account on White Pages, and we skip traced all the numbers ourselves. And then once we skip traced all the numbers, then we called ourselves. So we were physically cold calling ourselves, and we had, like I said, it was maybe 1,000 pieces of mail or something, or 2,000 pieces of mail that we sent out, and it was a total investment of probably about $1,500, maybe $1,200 to $1,500 for that first marketing campaign. And in that investment, we ended up finding we found 2 deals, I believe, from that one. Actually, one deal where we made 20 grand on, and one deal where we made like 12 grand. So we invested like 12 or 15, and we made 32. So but it took a hell of a lot.
Andrew, are you gonna say it or I'm gonna say it?
It's all you.
Fuck off. Because you're telling us that you spent 12 to 1,500 to make about 32K by taking a chance on yourself, not knowing at that time if it was going to work, but you were able to take your last dime, your last pennies, and put it on a credit card. You picked up the phone and you did the fucking work.
Yeah,
it's the hard yards, isn't it? That's a phrase I love. Cold calling's the hard yards. Like that's the truth. It's just the hard yards, and some people are amazing. Someone actually part of like our team and organization is a guy called Walter who's just joined. He is like cold calling is like just his jam. Like he just loves it. Like he's like I'm just like a hunter mentality. Yeah, Brad, who's who we're with as well. Like he's like that. He is pure hunter. He's like, I will pick up the phone and dial 100, 200 people a day. I don't care. I want to build that connection and I'll get it done. A lot of people.
See, that's sick to have that mentality. Like, honestly, I didn't I hated it. I freaking hate cold calling, but it's like, you just have to
do it.
Yeah.
Hard yards.
Like it's awesome if you already have that mentality. If you're like, yeah, hell yeah. Like I love cold calling. Let me get after it. But it's like, even if you don't have that even if you don't like it, like tough shit. If you're starting your business, if you have some goals, then it's one of the things that will help you to get your business from where you are to where you want to be. I mean, I'm looking right now. I have like 2 screens. So on this other screen, I just saw a message pop up from this kid I know who's a realtor, and he's brand new, just started out, and I told him, I was like, look, you find us anything, I'll pay you on the front, and then you can list it on the back. I'll teach you anything you want to know about development. I'll introduce you to anyone that I know that I think would be helpful. And you hustle, do your thing, bring us deals. He just brought us this deal. It's like this absolutely freaking absurd. It's like a 60 unit deal, which is like way bigger than we've ever done. And I'm talking to other partners because I can't take it down on my own. With our
but you want the big fish. This is the starting gate, isn't it, to these bigger fish deals? 60 units is serious. Like I love all this stuff, man. Like I want to get into the 100 of unit complexes. I've spoken about this before. Like nowhere near myself. Like I don't even do any investing right now. Like biz building. I'm like I'm focused on building my business, and then that will eventually get to a point where I can invest and do that, and it's more passive for me. But it's people like you who I would go to and be like, listen, I've got $1 million, whatever, that I'd like to put into a property. You do all that, and we just, split it however you do it.
Incredible way to invest in real estate. Listen, you and I do one of those deals in the future. You bring $1 million, you'll end up owning probably 70%, maybe 60 to 80% of the deal. I'll take 20 to 40% of the deal. And in addition to your 60 to 80% equity in the deal, you'll also get anywhere from a 6 to 8% preferred return. So you're getting paid first, your 6 to 8%. And then the rest of it will split on 70-30 lines or 60-40 lines or 80-20 lines in your favor. And it's like, you're just funding the deal. You're not actually operating the deal. So doing that is a hell of a way to invest in real estate. It's called, syndication real estate deals, which is, I'm sure you're familiar with.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's like my vision. I mean, listen, like we spoke about initially about being a business owner, and it's like focus is super important to me. Peter will attest to this. Like I have got like arrow straight vision. Like I want this thing that
Sometimes it's annoyingly narrow and focused, where I have to learn how to work within those parameters.
Well, that's what we're talking about, though. It's like you build narrow, right? So you're starting out narrow, you're super focused
Yes.
on what you're good at, and you're doubling down on your strengths and you're recruiting out your weaknesses. And then you slowly expand to the point where, when you want to invest into real estate yourself, because you were so narrow, now you have a sack of cash that you can toss into a real estate deal.
Exactly.
That's
where my head's
water.
100%. Yeah. So my idea is build business, sell business, take money, a lot of real estate, build, a part of a passive side, then do whatever I want. I mean, obviously these are grand visions. I'm putting it out on here because I want it to be out in the world, because I like to be held accountable. Like I'm going after it like 1,000%. And listen, like the journey's been fucking rough even to get to here. Like I've failed a lot. And like, I don't consider myself amazing at basically anything, but like I am persistent. Like that's the one thing that most people would define me as, is persistent.
That's an amazing thing to be amazing at.
So it's like, I just don't quit. Like I've got no quit in me at all. And it's like, if you got no quit, like it might take me, I'm not sure if people know Eric Thomas. He does some motivational stuff. And I think he said something like, took him 11 years
to succeed as much as you want to breathe. That's how you be successful.
He said he took 11 years to get a 4-year degree, but he said, where on my degree does it say it took 11 years?
Yeah, right.
Fucking nowhere. Mm-hmm. I still made it. And obviously he's a multimillionaire now, but he's like, I made it. And nowhere on my degree, VCRs, does it say mine took 11 and yours took 4.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like no one's counting. This isn't a race. This is where people get it. I'm going to go off on a tangent here. I know it, but like, this isn't a race. Right? It's like
worthwhile tangent to take.
Yeah. It's like, this isn't a race that, so I'm not, again, this is like a bit of a high level thing, but there's something called game theory, and it's about the difference between finite and infinite games. And the whole point is finite are an agreed upon set of rules. So it's like baseball, soccer, and all this stuff. People, they go, we've got this many team members, it lasts for this long, and that's finite. Infinite game is, there's no agreed end point. So like wars are a lot of like infinite games, right? And the problem with business is people think they're a finite game when actually they're an infinite game, because the people listening to this, you are a realtor or a mortgage broker, or you're in real estate, and there's someone else across the street who's also doing the same thing. And they're like, well, I'm a better realtor. But based on what? Based on what parameters are they better than you? Oh, well, they've done more deals. Who agreed to these fucking rules? Yeah. I didn't. And like with business, like you're not in competition with anyone. You are solely in competition with who you were yesterday. Period. End of story. So like I might get there in 30 years. I might get there in 3. But who the fuck is counting?
Yeah.
Right?
What the fuck do they know if they are? Like I can relate with that so much, because honestly, I can relate from the opposite side. When I was a young buck and I was very immature, but I was doing well professionally and financially, I remember looking at how other people were doing, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, this guy is like 30 and he's only doing this. I'm 20 and I'm doing this. Like, oh my God. Like I'm crushing it. I honestly was, like I said, I was immature because I ended up putting people, like I looked at like the hierarchy in that manner rather than a hierarchy of competence, which is how I look at it now. But then I also had like a period where I wasn't doing shit. So I was doing really, really well, and other people were, just in college or haven't started yet, or were just not doing well. And then I kind of went down, and then I wasn't doing anything. And then those people at that period of time, I would look at the same people, and they caught a really great period in their business life, and then they were crushing it. And I was like, damn, now I'm worse than them, and then I'm up, and then they're down. And so it's just constant. And that's when I realized, like, life is very, very long. It's a losing game when you start comparing yourself to anybody else. And exactly like you said, like Jordan Peterson talks about, don't compare yourself to who someone else is today. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday.
Right.
Ooh, and comparison is the thief of all joy in life.
True that.
Because you don't know the struggles. You don't know what's happening behind closed doors, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know we're skimming over your story a little bit, especially in the beginning, but they don't see the quote unquote price that you paid to get over 50,000 people in your previous career of network marketing.
Yeah,
They don't see the highs and the lows and all the crap that came after when shit hit the fan.
Totally.
They're only looking at you guys now and be like, oh my God, these guys, overnight success.
I know.
But you guys are thinking of this as being a business owner. And if for people that didn't catch this, you have a deal that came across your desk, 60 plus units. And the one thing that I picked up, it's like, we got to call our investors and call some of our partners, because you guys know your lane and what you're good at. Mm-hmm. And when you're about to bite a lot more than you can chew. So instead of fucking that up, you're like, as a business owners, you're able to assess and make a decision on how to proceed. Mm-hmm. So even now, even though now you're narrow and you're expanding, you're not expanding beyond your capabilities, skill sets, and what you know.
Mm-hmm. To everything, there's the invisible price, isn't there? That's the truth. Yeah. There's the invisible price to everything, and people just don't comprehend that. Like, everyone looks great, but there's a lot of celebrities. There's these Instagram models. All these are like things that people can relate to, where they look fantastic for one picture, they look fantastic for that video. But holy fuck, you go behind closed doors with some of them people, man, that isn't a fun life. The happiest people that most people know are actually the ones who are content with what they have and aren't seeking to prove anything. And I know this is kind of like wildly off topic, considering obviously it's real estate, but I think the important note from my side is that it's like, just try and up your own game for you. Like, it's not about other people, and it's not, listen, Timmy down the street might be doing 1,000 deals, but like, trust me, from I can speak from this. Like, I wanted to kind of be in this metaphorical Timmy doing 1,000, and then I got to say 100, and then I realized like how like Timmy's in a whole nother league, and also like he's got 500 people that he's managing, and like the complexities of all of this. The overhead is biblical. Like, I know some crazy.
Also, could be broke.
Yeah,
Timmy could be 1,000 deals. He could be over leveraged and broke.
This is the biggest thing that I've learned, where it's like, this is exactly true. And it was my kind of note on it was like, I now know a bunch of people who were doing 500K plus per month in revenue. And that business went broke because their overhead per month was 600, 700 grand. But you didn't see that. You just saw the brand new Mercedes. You saw the house. You saw the pictures at the game at the Lakers or whatever. It's not the story, man. The story behind closed doors. And
social media is just a quick little snapshot of reality.
It's not reality most of the time. That's the truth, though.
Yeah, right.
It's the snapshot they want to give you, and that's just not the truth. I mean, we're all in here, this is obviously about you, Andrew. I don't want to make this about me. It's about the fact that like you've gone through the fucking mud. Like, the trenches are the hard yards, which is now like why when shit happens, it's not a shock anymore. Like, the first time shit went south for me, for Peter as well, it's a shock. And then your system it's like your immune system. It's like all of a sudden you're just like, this ain't fucking new. It's just different. It's the same flavor, Like, I bet you can read through people's bullshit super quick now too.
Yeah, well, that's another one where I try not to get too cocky about either. Like, do you guys know who Malcolm Gladwell is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of his book, Talking with Strangers?
I haven't read it.
I have not read that one. I've read the other leadership books that he has.
Yeah, he's got a few really good ones, like Blink, Alchemist. He's got, or not Alchemist, Outliers.
Outliers, I've got over there. I'm about halfway through.
So he talks about in Talking with Strangers, like basically just gives example after example after example, showing how like people think that they're good at reading people, but basically nobody's good at reading people. And even like the FBI crazy people who can read, quote unquote everyone. It's like, okay, if you, the average person, can read 50% of people, they can read 55. So I honestly, one of my big things is, yes, picking up on tendencies and doing things like, listening to someone's actions over their words and stuff like that. But I stopped trying to think that I can get really good at reading people, because It's just, you can definitely tell very, very quickly the pieces of shit now. I can definitely tell that a lot quicker, but I'm very slow to be like, yeah, this guy is awesome. He is on his shit and he's killing it. I mean, I try not to just not make any assumptions or judge at all, and operate in terms of like, okay, I have this that I can bring to the partnership, this value add. Here's our hole that we're missing. Can your value add fill this this need that we have? And if it's yes, okay, great. Let's make a good partnership. Okay, as partners, first step, let's talk to legal. Let's get our partnership all worked out so that if it doesn't work out well, we can split and have everything be okay. And funny enough, like when you do that, those are the deals that work out good. When I haven't done that, when I've skipped that step, those are the deals that don't work out good. And that's when I really should have had some paperwork in place. So we're very just like kind of by the book at this point in terms of bringing new people, getting in partnerships and bringing people on board and things like that.
And that's because you guys are business owners and you're approaching it as a business. You're not just fucking winging it. You're not just like, yeah, come to us, give us your money, we'll do X, Y, Z, and you're gonna figure it out the fuck later.
And we'll do, and just like taking the emotion out of everything, like trying to, right? Like we're trying to just make rational decisions and remove the emotion from each individual circumstance, because that can fuck with you.
Well, we all know it's not a matter of like if shit hits the fan, it's a matter of when. Mm-hmm. And when you have those types of, I wouldn't even say contingencies, but that layer and level of expectation and standards set, then you know how to deal with it. It's not personal. It's a black and white decision. If it isn't working, you go the other way. There's really nothing there that people can get upset about. Will they get upset? Yeah, probably, because we're human beings are not rational. Right. Even though we agreed to something, they'll take it a little personally, may have a little bit of grit, but you can sleep better at night because you know that you did everything by the book as a business owner for what's best, not for you, for the business, because you owe that not to your partners, your shareholders, your investors, and everyone involved in the process, even your employees.
Yeah.
There's a certain line, right, between like integrity and like just good business. And, I know Pete has been part of like a quote unquote bad business where stuff went wrong and he was kind of chasing his tail. Luckily, my first business that kind of went wrong just because it just didn't work out. It wasn't that we kind of lost loads of money type thing, was actually with my brother-in-law, and that was kind of cool. Because it was just like, it's easy, it's kind of family, although sometimes that goes wrong, right? But like with my other business partner, the very first thing we did, like you said, was it's not like we didn't trust each other. It's not like we didn't have a relationship. This wasn't like a new relationship that we just formed. It was like, this is just good business practice. This says to me that you're going to do X and I agree to do Y. And in so doing, we are now in agreement and we have a partnership to go forward in an agreed upon manner, right? So then if I don't do X and you don't do Y, I can go, hey, you didn't do Y. Like, that's your responsibility. And we all need accountability. Whether everyone wants to admit it, like a lot of the time, I think if it's done wrong, it's fucking irritating, right? But like a lot of the time, accountability sucks because you're wrong. Right, because they've called you out and you're trying to get away with it, and it's not malice. Like a lot of the time, you're just like, "Fuck, I just."
That's why you just need to like fully drop your ego, like 100%. Is just fully get rid of your ego and operate in that manner, and that can help you out with your partnerships. It can also help you out with just for instance pivoting when you need to pivot, or being able to look at market feedback. A real world example is. All right, so let's make it make sense for realtors. If you are listing a property on the same block as another realtor, and that realtor sold in a week for 500, and you're listed at 490, and you've been listed for 3 months, and your houses are the same condition and the same size, then you need to look at the variable, which is yourself, and say, okay, what did they do? Like that, if that agent's able to humble themselves, maybe even approach the agent from across the street and say, hey, listen, I'm having some trouble with this one. We've been listed for a lot longer than you, and we're $10,000 less. What do you have any advice, something that I could do? Or honestly, even offering a piece of the deal. Hey, do you want to be a co-listing agent? I would love to see how you operate your business. And being, not being short-sighted, right? Being able to give away a piece of right now for a future benefit. I mean, I could tell you for us, that has done incredible things. And it takes you dropping your ego, realizing that number one, you have some areas that you can get better at. And number two, also asking for help, taking that extra action step of asking somebody else, hey, how can I get better at this? You are better than me clearly at this. What can I learn from what you did?
Which comes down to mentorship, I should say in English. Mentorship, which I know you had, right?
Everywhere though. That's what I found. It took us a while before we had like one person where we're like, oh yeah, okay, you are now our mentor, right? Like before that, it was all we did was we found different ways that we could add value to someone else's operation. So we would do some things like I would have a meeting with you, Andrew. Let's say you're a developer in Philly. You've been doing it for 10 years. Then I would say, all right, what are you looking for? What do you want to buy? And you would just give me a specific area and specific criteria. And well, first of all, I'd reach out and I'd say, hey, can I buy your lunch? Right? I love your operation. I'd really admire what you're doing. I have aspirations to get there one day in the future. Could I buy you lunch? Right? So I'd buy you lunch. When we're sitting down to lunch, I would say, hey, how can I add value to your operation? Where are you looking to buy, for instance? And you tell me, hey, listen, I'm only buying in West Philly, east of 42nd Street. Great. What are you looking to buy? 2 to 5 units. Awesome. I would go home. I would set up a marketing campaign targeting 2 to 5 unit buildings east of 42nd Street. As I send out that marketing campaign, when I get leads that come in, I would think of that person. I would say, hey, Andrew, I know that you're looking for 2 to 5 units east of 42nd Street in West Philly. Well, I found something right here. I don't have it under contract yet. I would like to sell it directly to you. What price do you want it for? What would make you excited to be able to buy this thing? He says 400. Great. I'm going to go on this appointment. It's Tuesday at noon. You can come with me if you want, or I'll just straight up do the acquisition for you, and I'll be your acquisition arm. I'll keep everything under 400, whatever, And he's like, okay, great. And then I would just go out and get that property directly for him. And then I would say, hey, listen, you wanted it for 400. How about 399? I'll give you $1,000 off, and I'd like to take you out to dinner. I'd like to pick your brain. And then I take him out to dinner, and I say, hey, listen, dude, I really like this property that you just bought. I'm trying to get into stuff like that. Would you mind if you just CC me on some emails with your architects and with your engineers? I would really like to see this from a bird's eye perspective and see how this deal goes. Hey, could I stop by before you sheetrock it? Because I'd love to see what's behind the walls and how you set everything up. Oh, hey, when this is done, before you lease it out, can I walk through when it's done? And we have so many people like that were not our mentors. We just found ways to add value to their operation. They were stoked. They loved us. They just saved some money. And, for us, we just had to bite our ego, realize that we were the low man on the totem pole in that interaction. And we also had to give up money in the short term for long-term gain. That same property that we just sold to them for $399, chances are we could have sold it to someone else for $420. So we're leaving a substantial amount of money. And this happened multiple times where we left a substantial amount of money on the table so that we could get in good with someone that we admired and then see the progression of their project. And you'd be so surprised how generous people are with their time and with their resources if you approach them in a manner of not asking them for something first, but offering them something first.
Yeah,
I think this is like one of the highest levels of contribution, because you're not expecting anything in return, but because you're contributing so much, they feel almost like guilty and obligated.
Yeah.
In a good way. Like,
That's the real cognitive bias. It's reciprocity, where you feel it's an actual, it's hardwired into our brains, where you feel a need to give to someone when they've given to you.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode. Now, before you go, we're giving access to a private training we did where we revealed the top 3 niches to get listings today completely for free. So if you want access, you can go and download that training at eliteagentsecrets.com. We're regularly releasing new trainings, guides, and cheat sheets, so make sure to head over to eliteagentsecrets.com and sign up so you don't miss out.